The NBA Finals is here, and it's getting heated. As I'm writing this, the Boston Celtics are at 1-0 against the Warriors, who are looking to continue their dominance as they had on the lead since the 2015 season and coming back from their 2-year hiatus due to injuries. Well, in that game, we saw a lot of great performances from the likes of Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Derek White, and even with his bad shooting game, Jason Tatum with his 13 assists, which is all-time the best game ever when it came to assists in someone's first playoff game. But while we're on this topic of the NBA Finals, why don't we talk about the final destination for some of these players? The Bill Russell Finals MVP trophy that is given out to the most outstanding player in the series most of the time of the winning team. Well, today's video here on the Alvini Linguine channel, where we talk about things all interesting basketball with your boy Alvini Linguine. We will be doing a ranking and tier list of the last 10 Finals MVPs to see how I would rank them against each other in my opinion. Of course, you can join in on this conversation yourself and tell me your thoughts on my placement, or even use the link in the description that you can use to go straight to the tier list that I made. This ranking system will be done with 4 things in mind: the individual performance of the player, the team they win against and the strength of said team, the discussion on if anybody else could have received that award, and lastly, the impact they had with said Finals MVP in NBA history. All that and more in this video. But before we start, you already know what I have to do. The like goal of this video is the usual 1,000 likes to help support the channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram for channel news and updates, and follow me on my Twitch for weekly streams. With all that out of the way, you already know who it is. Roll it!
He incurred an injury dealing with weights in the weight room, so he stitched up in the left hand doing all this.
It's over, ladies and gentlemen.
First on the tier list, we have LeBron James, who in 2012 won his first championship with the Miami Heat versus a OKC Thunder team that still had their big three of Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook. On one side, you had the young trio of the Thunder, and on the other side, you had the big three of Miami with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. The Finals MVP and regular season MVP, LeBron James in that series averaged a near triple-double with 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists a game, while almost playing every single minute of the Finals, and also shot sub 50% from the field against paint defenders like Serge Ibaka and all defensive team member from the year before, Thabo Sefolosha. And one of the glaring issues the Thunder exploited from LeBron James was his 18% from 3 shooting percentage that he had while he's shooting 3 times a game from 3. In that first game, the Thunder got the best of the Heat with a combined effort of Russ and KD. But what people don't remember about that series is how things looked a lot harder for the Heat, despite the reverse sweep the Heat did the next 4 games to win the Finals, winning by point totals of 4, 6, 6, and finally 15 in the final game. LeBron James had a good series against the Thunder, even having a triple-double in the final game of the Finals with 26 points, 11 rebounds, and 13 assists, and was the clear MVP winner compared to the rest of his teammates. But the dominance of LeBron James in that year wasn't shown compared to other years we will see him do in the future. And if you consider his numbers in the regular season compared to what he did in the Finals versus the Thunder, he did a, somewhat downgrade compared to what he would do in the regular season. But the coaching expertise of Eric Spoelstra and the player personnel of the Heat was able to outdo the young Thunder in that 5-game series. But with that being said, LeBron James in this series, in my opinion, gets a C rank from me due to how the Thunder played against him and how he was somewhat able to suppress him despite losing. A win is a win at the end of the day, but compared to the other performances we'll talk about later, he had a mid-tier Finals MVP bout. And now we are back with another LeBron James championship, this time against the San Antonio Spurs, the 3rd best team when it came to defensive rating and top 10 in offensive rating. LeBron James this time around was going against a very experienced team in the San Antonio Spurs, unlike the one he went against last year in the OKC Thunder. In this series, it went to a very tight 6 games in all but 1 game, and of course what most of us know the series for was a shot made by Ray Allen in game 6 to send the game into overtime, where LeBron and Ray Allen closed out the game, scoring 6 out of the last 8 points in that overtime quarter. Now in this series, LeBron numbers drops a tad bit from his usual averages in regular season, and once again he went and clapped the competition scoring wise in the earlier series. He even showed out on one of, if not the best defense in the NBA in the Indiana Pacers, having numbers of 29 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists a game, alongside a steal in the block game, while almost shooting 50-40-90 splits if he could just hit his free throws. That is a showing of dominance in a series despite going to 7 games. But in the Finals, he put up stats of 25 points, 10 10 boards, and 7 assists a game while shooting under 45% from the field. Even in their losses, he put up some really bad scoring nights, but I will say his Game 7 performance makes it all up, going God mode, scoring 37 points in the series clinching game while going 5 of 10 from 3, a perfect 8 of 8 from the free throw line, and 12 of 23 from the field. Before I make my ranking though, I want you to know also in the first 3 games of the series, he scored 18, 17, and 15 points respectively. But again, he made up for it in Game 7. Now the usual debate when it comes to this series is that Ray Allen apparently saved LeBron in this series in that Game 6, but all I gotta say to that is his job is to win games. He was there at the right place and at the right time. I don't see that being a detriment to LeBron at all when he's simply one of the teammates who are supposed to be there to contribute to a championship. However, compared to the people we will eventually talk about later, I'm gonna have to give this one a C also, especially to how he played in games 1 through 3. Now we're on to the 2014 NBA Finals, the revenge tour of the San Antonio Spurs and the rematch against the Miami Heat. There are a lot of implications going into this series, especially when you consider how the Spurs got better and the potential slowdown of Dwayne Wade for the Heat as he gets older and loses more of his athleticism year by year. People still saw this series going either way, but this Finals went to the Spurs in 5, and the Finals MVP was given to Kawhi Leonard. Now, as we all know, the Spurs play in a very team-oriented basis and on a next up basis. That year in the regular season, they had 6 people score over 10 points a game. In the playoffs, it was the same exact way. So coming into a finals where they were literally 1 missed shot away from winning the finals last year, the Spurs had some business to take care of. Now, when it came to the finals MVP Kawhi Leonard, his case for winning was due to him being the primary defender of LeBron James, which you can argue didn't really come up to much because, again, he had a good series with a damn near 50-40-90 split if it wasn't with the free throws, and could have competed a whole lot more if it wasn't for his team's terrible defense, allowing the Spurs to shoot 52% in the series in total, 46% from 3, and have an offensive rating of 120. And if you want to compare that to last year, the Spurs had an offensive rating of 108, shot 45% from the field, and 40% from 3. Again, a complete revenge tour. But in the case of Kawhi in that series, he put up averages of 17 points, 6 rebounds, steal, and a block a game, while shooting, get this, 61% from the field and 57% from 3. Now, I know he scored 9 points in both games 1 and 2, but remember, the Spurs rely on team play, not individual play. He was just playing his role, but in games 3 through 5, it was time for him to boost his production in a bigger role. And even then, in games 3 through 5, he put up 23 points, 9 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks a game on 68% from the field and 53% from 3 on 4 threes a game. So even then, he was still godly in all those 3 games. Now, ranking wise, I'm rather conflicted. You have my main reason to lower him on the totem pole because of his role and the team around him compared to LeBron's, and then you have the fact that he only shot the ball on average 9 times a game. The efficiency is godly and the defense is godly, but I have to only give him a C. But I mainly blame that on the way the Spurs played, and if he had more of a bigger role in those games, I'd easily at least put him in B if he put up similar efficiency and, of course, the defense. 2015, the year the Warriors started their dominance as a team for many years to come, and now, once again, they are back in the finals. But let's rewind back to when they was in their first finals since the first airing of Saturday Night Live. Yes, it's been that long since they was in a finals game. But the finals MVP was surprisingly given to Andre Iguadola, and once again, it was due to his defensive play on LeBron James. And if you want to know something funny about that situation in particular, LeBron James and Iggy were the only people to be voted as a finals MVP candidate. Out of the 11 votes, Iggy got 7 and LeBron got 4, while nobody else received any. But why did Iggy get it? Well, again, just like Kawhi, for his valiant efforts on defense against one of the best players in all time in LeBron James. And this wasn't just any defense. According to ESPN, when Iggy was guarding LeBron James, he caused him to shoot 24% from the field in the series, and when LeBron James wasn't being guarded by someone that was Andre Iguodala, he made 44% of his shots. Huge difference there between the defensive impact the Warriors had with him and without him. And then there's also the fact that he was the second leading scorer on the team, which went a long way due to the struggles of Klay Thompson, scoring 16 points a game on the series, while also showing the effectiveness of Steve Kerr's death lineup with Iggy at power forward and Draymond at center. If you'd like to know more about that lineup and its effect on the NBA, then check out my video that I made on that topic on the screen. But Iggy came through that series, especially offensively, putting up 22 points in Game 4 and 25 points in Game 6 to win the series. And after reviewing the games and seeing that Game 6. I'm not gonna lie, I feel what the voters were going with this one. Honestly, too, I'd vote for Iggy if I knew the defensive statistic and seeing how he helped affect the team in the long run. And when it came to the rankings, though, I'm gonna have to give him a D. I understand the defensive impact and whatnot, but considering what happens next year and the lack of help of LeBron in that series, it kind of sours it a tad. But again, speaking of next year, the 2016 NBA Finals, the first time a team has ever come back from a 3-1 series deficit, and that was led by LeBron James and his efforts. I remember watching this whole series with my family, my freshman year in high school, and it was quite the showing of basketball, scoring 40 points in 2 games in a row, the block on Iguadola, the game winner by Kyrie, and the all-around dominance from LeBron on every level. In that series, he averaged 29 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks, and also in this series, he led all players in every single statistical category from points to blocks on both the Cavaliers and Warriors. And if I'm correct, this is also the first time anyone's ever done that in the finals. But remember, again, he was down 3-1 in that series despite the play, but before the 3-1 comeback, he did average 24, 11, and 8. But in the 3 games that he had to win, he boosted his averages to 36, 11, and 10 with 3 steals and 3 blocks a game. The level of play he was on in that series for those last 3 games was something you'd only see a few times in your life. From going down 3-1 in a series to having to score like a madman on the same defense that limited you last year, this was the perfect revenge from last year considering the circumstances that he faced in that series then. I doubt anyone would have a problem with me putting this series in the S tier slot, as he had the perfect mix of team difficulty going against a team that broke the all-time win record in a season, had the individual stats, and being the undisputable best player in that series by a long shot. If you have a problem with it, you're probably a salty Warriors fan who was mad about the series and complains about Draymond's suspension in that series, or just a troll. You're just a straight up troll. And now we are on to the dark ages, the years that Kevin Durant controlled the league, joining the Warriors and proceeding to win 2 straight rings. Due to the dominance, these sections probably won't last all that long to reflect how a lot of non-casual NBA fans wanted these years just to go on and pass. But anyways, in 2017, Kevin Durant won Finals MVP due to his dominance against the Cleveland Cavaliers, winning in 5 games. The first 2 games being won by 22 and 19 points by the Warriors. Again, these games solidified KD's place as a champion, going against LeBron James and the defending champions from last year. Now, LeBron did make the series interesting by averaging a triple-double that whole series, but it wasn't enough when you're facing a starting lineup of Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, KD, Draymond, and Iggy. And I know Zaza started, but we all know Iggy was the real starter out there. KD averaged 35 points a game on 50-40-90 splits. Undisputably the Finals MVP. He went out there and completely dominated the Cavs on every facet possible in the game of basketball. Even in the closeout game, he had a 39-point performance going 14-20 from the field, shooting 70% from there. Once again, this placement for me is based on the individual performance of the player, the team they faced, and how he would rank on the Finals MVP vote and the impact he had on Finals history with said Finals MVP. Now, without sounding biased, he may have had one of the best performances in Finals history, but when you look at the rest of the qualifiers I have, KD's placement is going to stay weird from person to person. For me, the most I can give it is an A. The 35-point 50-40-90 will forever be one of the better final performances in NBA history, but when you add on to the fact that the team he was on and the face he was playing, a Cavs team that gave up the 4th most points in the playoffs that year and the 10th most in the regular season, it was safe to say that something like this was definitely expected. If you want to put him in the S tier just for the performance alone, totally understandable, but for me, objectively, I don't want to put him in that same ranking as what LeBron did in 2016, which was because of his performance, opponent strength, and the all-time impact that he would have historically in the finals. And now we are back once again. We have KD back to bully the NBA to receive another championship, and this time in more dominant fashion as the Golden State Warriors swept the Cleveland Cavaliers 4-0 with a team far worse than last time, led by an angry LeBron James and no Kyrie or really anyone from the original team for that matter. Now for KD, he once again averaged a 50-40-90 in the series, but with less points, averaging 20, 10, and 7 and 2 blocks a game. But we can all imagine how boring this series was for most people, as the most exciting part of the finals was what happened to J.R. Smith in the first game that caused a very vital moment in NBA history. But when it came to KD's performance, let's talk about it. Yes, he put up great numbers, however, on one of the most dysfunctional teams we have ever seen make an NBA Finals ever. And once again, the same Cavaliers team was top 5 in opponents' points per game in the regular season and had to go through multiple LeBron James game winners and game 7s to get to the NBA Finals. No matter who was coming into the Finals from the East, they was going to have a very hard time against the Warriors. But the Cavs were literally the worst option out of all the contenders due to the structure of the team, how they only rely on their offense and how bad their defense was. But due to that, and funny enough, not putting up better numbers than last year, I will be giving this Finals MVP a B for mid. Yes, I know 50-49, blah, 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 blah. But again, considering that this defense was a lot worse than last year and he put up less stats, and considering the version of Cavaliers that we got this time around, yeah, this was a total snooze fest of a Finals, and definitely a total snooze fest of a Finals MVP. And now we're in year 3 into the Warriors' dominance, where we have a new champion in the Toronto Raptors and the super team slayer himself, Kawhi Leonard, as the Finals MVP. And as we all know, his journey here was very amazing, averaging 31 points on damn near 50-40-90 splits, and of course, including the legendary game winner that brought him into the Finals in the first place.
It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
Now, one thing I always debated with people was the fact the Raptors had a legit case to compete with the Warriors in the Finals, as their team was great from top to bottom rotational wise compared to the Warriors, who are more top heavy. And we saw how that top heaviness came to fruition as KD got injured in game 5 while also not playing in the first 4. Now, it was easy for the Raptors to beat the Warriors even without KD, not at all. The Warriors are still competing regardless of the injury, they just had less depth, which goes back to the top heaviness comment I made earlier. Despite that, the Raptors won in 6, and Kawhi Leonard won Finals MVP, averaging 28 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals and a block a game while shooting 43% from the field and 35% from 3. So it wasn't as strong as the performances he would have in past series. Now, due to that and the stipulation that they beat the Warriors without KD, something people still talk about to this day in the Finals, I will give this Finals MVP a B. People don't talk about this series nor his Finals performances due to that stipulation, but just like other series, you have to work with what you have. But compared to other performances, situations, and teams, I feel like a B is warranted for Kawhi Leonard's 2019 Finals MVP bout. And now we are on to the bubble NBA season, the season where half of the NBA was brought to Florida to play out a small part of the remaining NBA season and the playoffs to settle the rest of the 2019-20 season. And the winner of this season was the Los Angeles Lakers and Finals MVP LeBron James. Now, for the sake of keeping things unbiased as possible, let's talk about the season as objectively as possible. In the Finals, you had the duo of Anthony Davis and LeBron James against defensive-minded Miami Heat. A lot of people saw the Heat as the clear losers, but if they kept LeBron and AD somewhat contained, this series could be a lot more competitive, and that didn't happen at all. LeBron James in 6 games averaged 30 points, 12 rebounds, and almost 9 assists a game, shooting damn near 60% from the field and 41% from 3. Just straight up peak LeBron at this point. Considering the Heat this season was a top 10 defensive team themselves, it was quite the impressive performance he was putting up, which included a 40-point game where he went 15 of 21 from the field and 6-9 from 3, but he ended up in a 3-point loss, unfortunately. But a lot of people were warranted to not believe the Heat, due to their lack of offensive firepower, could actually win in this series. All in all, the series in general was heavily in favor for the Lakers from a personal standpoint, and it caused the Lakers to win in 6. Compared to other series on this list, I am pretty confident to put this one in either B or A, but due to the matchup between the two teams and how very little people saw the Heat winning, I'll put it in B. The Heat tried their best given the circumstances that they were in, especially when they had a couple of key injuries during the series, but it all slows down the rating just a little bit. And people also knew this series as a bubble series and an asterisk ring also, which also doesn't help the rating for this Finals MVP. I can imagine people wanting to put it in C for that same reason, but again, I am trying to think of this as objectively as possible. And now we are on to our most recent admission into the Finals MVP chapter. Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks, who beat the Phoenix Suns in 6. And since it's the most recent ring, we all know the implications that went into this. 2 small market teams that were 1 piece away from being contenders, and one of them, interestingly enough, was being Chris Paul on the Suns. But for Giannis in particular, he had one of the most dominant displays in Finals history that we have seen from the NBA from a person in the paint, putting up averages of 35 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 5 assists a game while shooting 60% from the field. They were down 2-0 due to defensive strategies, and after some slight adjustments in game plan, the Bucks were able to reverse sweep the Phoenix Suns. But in that series, Giannis showed why he was a 2-time Finals MVP, and in some cases, a 2-time DPOY, and why people regarded him as one of the most dominant players since Shaq. He also added on multiple clutch defensive moments, a 50-point game in the Game 6 to seal his first ever championship. And in that 50-point game, he won 16 of 25 from the field, and most impressively enough, 17 of 19 from the free throw line, because as we all know, he struggled from there, and in that final game, he made it work, while also adding 5 blocks. And as we all know, he celebrated that achievement by getting a 50-piece nugget from Chick-fil-A.
Can I have, please, a 50-piece Mac Minis? 50 exactly. Okay. Not 51, not 49. Chicken Minis, yes. 50.
The opponent he faced was one of the better teams in the West in the Suns, and the team was fully healthy. So it's safe to say that this is one of the best series we have had so far in the 2020s. So with all those factored together, this Finals MVP is easily an S tier. One of the few perfect mixes of individual accolades, team and series difficulty, and impact overall when it comes to its Finals MVP performances. Now, throughout the years, we have seen some really boring series in the finals, some that are very exciting and some that are just plain mid. But the things that happen in them make it that much better. The clutch moments, the highlight plays, the narratives, everything that makes a final series very exciting. And with this tier list, I hope I showed my thoughts off on each of the last 10 that came to that. But as usual, if you have any thoughts on my selections, then be sure to tell me in the comment section below. And if you'd like to see more of this, please sure to also tell me that in the comment section below. But as always, I hope you enjoyed today's video and learned something new, as my vision for this channel is to inform and entertain. Check out my social medias for the inside life of Alvini and other channel news. Check out my Twitch where I stream weekly. I have to go through shit like this all the time. Oh, no, if they score, I swear. Wait a second, no. What the fuck? No! 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 And lastly, if you want to talk to your boy, there is always my Discord. Links are in the description. But with all that out of the way, this is your boy, Alvini Linguine, saying peace. Also, going to Chick-fil-A after scoring 50 points and then winning Finals MVP is a complete power move, and I can only wish I could do the same thing.